Baseball fans, you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
We've talked about this topic before. Today, we talk about it again because it is once again in the forefront. Could Shohei Ohtani play for the Atlanta Braves in 2024? Shohei Ohtani just won the American League MVP, deservedly so. He had 44 homers, which led the American League. He had a 304 average this season, a 412 on base, also led the American League. He had a great season, not to mention what he did on the mound. He threw for 132 innings and had a 3.14 ERA. There is no player that does more than Shohei Ohtani for any team he is on. He can win the MVP any year that he plays to these standards on both sides of the ball. Now, that being said, we've established it. Shohei Ohtani, an extremely great player. I don't think there's a better one in baseball. He's a free agent this season. He's expected to leave Anaheim, but more than that, he's expected to get paid big bucks. Some estimations are, saying that he's going to make $500 million in his next contract, maybe $600 million. We've heard that number thrown around. Lately, he has expressed some intrigue or some interest in going to the Braves for 2024 and beyond, which was very interesting. It drove a lot of conversation up. Hey, could the Braves actually make a move like this? We've talked about this on the channel before, like I mentioned. I have always stood firm that the answer will be a resounding no. And it's not because Shohei Ohtani is not good enough to play on the Braves, and it's not even because he's not worth the money. I'm not saying that at all. I just don't see the Braves being the team to pay him $500, $600 million. I don't see that happening. However, it does not surprise me that Shohei Ohtani has shown some interest in playing for the Braves. Why wouldn't he? Think about it. There's big reasons why any player would want to play for the Braves. I narrowed it down to 3, though. Number 1, the obvious. They're a perennial contender. They're in the playoffs every year. And now, with the expanded playoffs, they will be in the playoffs likely for the next decade. Right? Number 2, the team chemistry. When you watch the Braves, you see it. The team chemistry is there. You have players like Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, who are always there and having fun. There's no doubt that compared to the Angels especially, the Braves have great team chemistry. Number 3, a passionate fan base. We can sit here and argue about who's the most passionate fan base across Major League Baseball. I'm not going to do that. But when you combine with the 2 I just mentioned, being a perennial contender, having that team chemistry, having that fan base is certainly a part of the intrigue. And who wouldn't want to be a part of it? There's a few reasons that I don't expect Shohei Ohtani to play for the Braves. Some of them are more obvious than others. Number 1, it's on the East Coast. And that might not sound like much, but Ohtani has only ever played on the West Coast. It's an easier flight from the West Coast to Japan. He's stated in interviews lately that doesn't have the same importance to him as it did 5 years ago, but it's still a factor in wherever he signs. That will still be in the back of his mind, no doubt about it. And it's really just comes down to having that perk versus not having that luxury depending on the town that you go to. Number 2 is money. This is the big one. You could say it's a tired argument, but it's an argument that we have to bring up. I mean, the Braves are not going to pay Shohei Ohtani this money. And look, it may be true that it's a tired argument. You guys are probably tired of hearing about it. But again, it has to be brought up when you're talking about a guy who could potentially get the biggest contract in Major League history. Now, granted, the biggest contract in Major League Baseball history is a line that constantly moves, right? I mean, it's going to be broken at some point, right, as time goes on. But when you look at Ohtani's market, it's something different. This is, we don't even know what Ohtani's market really is. We're hearing estimations of $500 to $600 million, but let's dive into that for a second. Some years, there is an oversaturation of certain positions in the market that are free agents. For example, if there's a lot of shortstops in the market, some of those all-star shortstops may not get the same payday as they would in a market that wasn't so filled with shortstops, right? Because there are other options. The thing with Ohtani is he's one of one. There aren't any other players that are throwing 130-plus innings with a 3.14 ERA and at the same time lead the American League in homers. There's not a player that's throwing 75 innings and leading the American League in homers, much less the 3.14 ERA. That just doesn't happen outside of Shohei Ohtani. So it's really hard to get an expectation of what his market will be. That causes as many problems in calculating what he should be paid long term in a career-making contract. It's just hard to calculate what he will actually make. What it comes down to really is, what is a team willing to pay for him? And that's the main reason I don't think the Braves will get Ohtani. We'll talk about that in just a second. You have to talk about the questions that surround Ohtani. We've never seen a player like this, not in the past few generations of baseball players. So some questions do arise. What about the longevity? I'm not so much worried about Ohtani at the plate, but he is 29. According to Fangraphs, the typical player peaks at 26 and gradually declines. You know it as the aging curve. He's far from typical. I am aware. This is not just a normal player that we're talking about. I'm well aware of that. But he has started to look human. This season, this past season where he won the MVP, it ended because of an elbow injury. Later, he had to undergo surgery. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that Ohtani is not the typical player. I'm well aware of that, but you have to be realistic. The guy is showing some signs of aging. He's showing some signs of not a decline, but injuries do matter. They do matter. And when you're carrying the load that Ohtani is carrying, it doesn't surprise me that injuries do pop up. Not at all. So the real question is not, can Ohtani hit or can Ohtani pitch? It's how long can he do both? Because that's really what his market depends on. It's not, hey, is Ohtani going to hit 40 homers next year? I'm not worried about that. I think Ohtani's a great player. I think he will be. I think once he's healthy, he'll be good to go. But are you really signing a guy who's going to pitch and hit for the next decade? I personally have my doubts about that. You could say, well, Tyler, his bat's good enough to justify, getting this deal if he can pitch for the next 2 or 3, maybe 5 years. You can tell me that. I still don't think so. I think if he's just a bat, you're talking in the $300 million, because that would be the equivalent of like a Bryce Harper, and I think that's the level of Ohtani's bat. Maybe a little higher. I just don't see it any more than 3, 4. I certainly don't think it's more than Trout's current contract at $400 million. But I have no doubt that Atlanta, like any team, would like to get Ohtani. Who wouldn't want a player like Ohtani? If they can get him, they'd be really dumb not to if they can get him for an affordable rate, if his intrigue with the Braves is really that strong. But the reality of Shohei Ohtani is he's not worth $500 million to the Atlanta Braves. I have said this before to plenty of criticism. I expect plenty of criticism on the comment section of this video. Let it out down below. Also, remember to like and subscribe. We appreciate that. But I don't see the Braves paying Ohtani $500 million. I just cannot justify it. I could be wrong. There is an argument for the Braves landing Ohtani, or at least being interested. I think that's more likely. They could be interested. Number one, the Braves do need starting pitching. With Kyle Wright out next season, the Braves will add a starting pitcher, or should add a starting pitcher this offseason. At least it's likely. Number two, the Braves have money. They are saving some money. They did not pick up Eddie Rosario, Kirby Yates, Colin McHugh, or Brad Hand's options. That saved about $25 million off the books. And the Braves will, have stated that payroll will rise in 2024. A lot of people are using that to say, oh, they're preparing for Ohtani. No, I don't think that at all. $25 million is not going to get you Ohtani. It's half of what Ohtani's yearly salary would cost. And the Braves would probably like to leave some of those dollars for the trade deadline. So I don't think that's fair. In terms of the pitching, we just talked about Kyle Wright being out for the season next year. I don't think the Braves are going to go sign Ohtani, who's still has recently gone elbow surgery. We don't have a confirmation on his condition at the moment. I don't think they're going to go wasting $500 million. I say wasting relative. I don't think they're going to go throwing $500 million at Shohei Ohtani, who's got a hurt elbow. I just don't think that's going to happen. The Braves have currently $131 million committed to long-term deals. Okay, those are your Austin Rileys, Matt Olsons, Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, those guys, the guys that are on long-term deals. Even Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy, those kind of guys, the core players that they have locked up long-term. The Braves' payroll in 2023 was $203 million. If all players who weren't on contract past 2023 weren't tendered, Atlanta would have saved around $45 million. That could have potentially landed Shohei Ohtani for 1 year if you gave him a $45 million deal for 1 year. But that's not what happened. Atlanta picked up the option for Charlie Morton, a $20 million option. That leaves about, again, $25 million to potentially spend in this offseason. Maybe more depending on how aggressive Atlanta decides to be, with what they think they need to get to prepare for 2024. They had a lot of questions at the end of 2023 with their bullpen and with their starters, so we could see more of a fluctuation there. I don't think it'll be at Ohtani level. I think it's more of a temporary problem that needs a temporary fix. I don't think it's a long-term deal like an Ohtani deal. And keep in mind, Shohei Ohtani will be signed somewhere long-term. This is not going to be like last year where he just took another year with the Angels to prove himself. The guy just won the MVP. He's going to get signed long-term. He's going to get his payday. The Cubs have already said they're very interested in Shohei Ohtani. They're going to pursue him, as will other teams. They'd be dumb not to, right? But just for perspective here, the average annual value of what a long-term deal in Atlanta looks like is $22 million per year. That's the average. They don't get any higher than that in Atlanta. Just for perspective, if Ohtani was to make that deal, right, $22 million to get $500 million, that would take him about 23 years to get that deal. I don't think the Braves are going to sign him to a 23-year deal, and I don't think he would sign that. I think he wants to. I would imagine if Ohtani gets a deal, it'll be somewhere in the range of $50 million a year for 10 years or something like that. I think, or to the highest bidder. I mean, that's where I think the market is right now. It was flirting with 600 at the beginning of last year with the elbow injury. People are starting to question things, rightfully so. Here's the thing. I also don't believe the Braves are the team that needs Shohei Ohtani. They are not dependent on Shohei Ohtani. Would it be nice to get him? Sure, absolutely. No one's denying that. But Atlanta has a core of excellent players. Ronald Acuna, the MVP winner. They have him signed to cost-effective deals, long-term deals for low money. Ronald Acuna Jr. is making $10 million a year. I can't see the Braves bringing in his co-MVP in the American League and paying him $50 million a year, especially when all-star second baseman Ozzie Albies is making $5 million a year. I just don't see it. They don't need Ohtani. The Braves also don't need Ohtani to be a contender like the Cubs do, who expressed interest. The Giants do. The Red Sox. Those teams kind of need a big push. And those are the teams that I kind of expect to be in there. They're not the only ones. I think there will be more. Maybe the Mariners, a team like that who needs a real push to be a contender again long term. Atlanta also doesn't need Ohtani to be an attraction to sell tickets like he was in Anaheim. Now that's not me saying that the Anaheim Angels only had Ohtani to be an attraction, but it certainly helped sell tickets. The Braves in 2023 set a new sellout record, so I don't think they need him to be that. So really, what's the benefit of getting Ohtani? They certainly won't pay more for him than what a team who thinks they need Ohtani to get to that point will pay for him, i.e. the Cubs, the Giants, the Red Sox. But really, it's just as much up to Ohtani as it is to the Braves. If this is actually going to happen, which, let me say strongly, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think Ohtani will sign to the Atlanta Braves. But if it does happen, I'm going to say this, if it does happen, Shohei Ohtani is going to have to take less money, significantly less money, to be on the Atlanta Braves. If that intrigue he was talking about was real, he's not going to get $500, $600 million in Atlanta. It's not going to happen. The Braves don't operate that way. They've never operated that way. They're not preparing their checkbook for Shohei Ohtani unless he wants a $20 million deal for the next 10 years, i.e. what Austin Riley is making. That's where the Braves are going to, draw the line. They're not going to expend that level of resources to Shohei Ohtani. I don't see it happening. And to be honest with you, I love Shohei Ohtani. I love what he's done for the game. I love that people talk about him. I love that he's a superhero to any baseball fan. Baseball fans are in wondering how he's able to do both pitching and hitting to the level he does. He's great for the game. But at some point, that age curve is going to hit. It happens to the best of them. It happened to Pujols. It happened to Cabrera. It happened to, anybody that plays in the game beyond a certain point. It's going to happen to Shohei Ohtani. And I don't think the Braves want to pay him $50 million a year when that age curve happens, especially considering they're going to be in the playoffs every season until the core that they have are gone. And I don't see Shohei Ohtani taking that kind of cut. Does he value money over winning? Probably not, but he probably values it enough to not take a third of what he could from someone else. And the Braves are not his only chance to play on a contender. The Dodgers have been mentioned. I think that, they're still in the mix every year. There's been a lot of teams that could potentially make it to the postseason with Ohtani. Does he value playing with the Braves more than $500 million? We'll see, but I doubt it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. While you're here, again, please do me a favor. Press the like button on this video. It really does help us out. Also, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything we have going on here at On Deck. And, of course, check out the On Deck shop, the QR code right over there. We have plenty of shirts. We have plenty of merchandise, bottles, signs, banners, posters, whatever you want. It's on the On Deck shop with our logo on it. Would really appreciate the support. But for now, to keep up to date with everything going on with Major League Baseball, again, please do like the video and subscribe. We'll see you later right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.